Thank you for having us here. Thank you to Women on Top for hosting this important discussion. Now, this panel is going to be about the realities of care and participation of older women and men in the workforce. We've heard about migrants, about women, about people with disabilities in the context of the demographic crisis, or the demographic phenomenon, to be more precise. Now we'll talk about older people. Two things. We'll talk about the two things. First, about the participation of people of a certain age in the workforce. And the second thing is about elderly care. Because people of a certain age have different needs. There's very different categories of elderly people. We'll talk about all of that. And just to give you some context, by 2050, it is estimated that 1 in 3 Greeks is going to be over the age of 65. So it's going to be a very large part of the population, and the challenges are immense. We're going to talk about all of that with Zefi Dimadama, who is the Secretary General for Equality and Human Rights of Greece. Antigoni Liberaki is a professor of economics at Pandion University in Athens. Liz Mestheneos is the founder member at 50 Plus Hellas. And Lindsay Simpson, who is joining us from London, is the founder and CEO of an organization called 55 Redefined. I don't know if you can see Lindsay. Hi, Lindsay. How are you? So I would like to start the discussion from Ms. Dimadama. I would like you to give us an overview of the current situation in Greece. When do women leave the workforce? How many elderly Greeks are not participating? So how many Greeks over the age of 55 are already out of the workforce? Give us an overview of what the situation currently is. Hang on a moment, the mic is not open yet.
Thank you so much, and it is a great honor to be here with you today. I'd like to thank, first of all, Women on Top for these initiatives, and especially Stella, my friend Stella, Ms. Kazakli, because she's working hard many years, and we work together, some of them. The Embassy of US, that every time is on our side, and of course our minister, Ms. Sofia Zaharaki, because from the first time we'd like to be close to this initiative and support with our suspicious this event. So it was a challenge for me, and I already say that to Stella, that this Inclusivity Lounge, I think it's really important because it's really have an integrated approach for the issue of demography, and because we talk about the way of inclusion, and sometimes we don't have in our minds women. And I'd like to highlight that we have only the 52% of women working today in the labor market. All the other is out because of the care responsibilities, because we have our children or elderly, our grandma or grandfather to be in our house and support us. So our priority in our ministry is how we can include, how we will have these women in this approach. But I have my dear Liz here, and I have the opportunity to meet her before 3 weeks, something. And it was a great opportunity for me to think that we have women, because I'm a professor in the university, most of the time it's about the young women and how we can attract young women and what we're going on with this field, and girls, but we have a lot of women, 55 plus, or 65 plus, or 70 plus, that they have a lot of ideas, they have a lot of things to do. They work with us. My mother supports my son, but also she's working in a lot of different fields. He's she's working close with technology, with the smartphones and all these things. And the question is how we will put in the labor market these women. Because the number, as you asked me to do here, it's not very encouraging. We have extract women and have in our mind that these women now, they have finalized, they retired, so they have to be out of the labor market. But we need to be part of the care system. And not the official care system, because in the official care system we have 90% more women than men. We have 7.7 million of women out of the labor market in the European Union. And then we have a big question mark. What we're going to do when we have the sustainable development, the growth, and we try to have energetic human rights, a pool of people that we need to work in new technology issues, in the issues that are coming up, as the ambassadors say, in the climate crisis. And we have a task force in our secretariat to work in the field of gender and climate crisis, because the effects of climate crisis are more, in a different way, more difficult for women. And from the other side, how we can work and conclude and add in our initiatives and the minister with the women that they have the expertise in many different fields to join them. And not to event only when we have elderly, sorry to say, but we have in our minds that, okay, we need to support them to have more hospitals, more, health care, but we not invest how we can encourage them to work with us, to have these people part of our labor market. And I'm finalizing with this.
So you raised an issue.
I will have another second term, yes?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll have an opportunity to delve into this deeper. You raised an issue, though, that part of the problem is cultural. And I would like to ask Adigoni Libaraki to look into this, to talk about this a little bit more. The workforce treats women over the age of 50 like they're on their way to retirement already. Men also, but particularly women. How do we solve this?
Okay, let me first make a very short comment relating to the topic of our discussion, inclusion. Inclusion is not only about children or about young people. Inclusion, in order to be worthy of its name, has to go throughout the life cycle. And this is one of the problems and the myths in Greece. We think that because we have equal opportunity legislation, and because we see young girls doing well at school and finishing in higher numbers compared to their male peers, the universities, and in their first job they get the same wage as their more stupid, cousin, they think that this is it. But the truth of the matter is that this is not at all it. Because as they progress through stages of life, the wage gap and the type of occupation, the type of job they do, distances itself increasingly from their stupid male cousin, who happens to progress throughout the hierarchy, and women get fewer opportunities to get trained. They're not expected to invest too much in their job, because if they have children, they're not good mothers. If they don't have children, they're not good people. So, it's a no-win situation. So, if we talk about opportunities and inclusion, we need to talk about opportunities and inclusion throughout the life cycle. And people over 50, 60, 70, 80 are also people who are worthy of having opportunities and equal at that. Now, what is the kind of demographic situation, the new age of the title? It's basically a combination of demographic and social developments. Longevity, good news. Fewer births, people have more chances to choose the number of children they have. They don't arrive via the pelargos, I don't know, the stork, sorry. And there are smaller families, families with fewer members. They last for longer, they are longer, leaner, and they develop relationships for decades and decades. They can't get enough of each other. And, of course, the roles are changing, and more women get involved in the labor market. So part of their personality is the personality of a working individual who has chosen at some point or at various points her. And this means that the invisible part of the job, the part that is happening inside the household, caring for adult individuals, not only for very old people, for frail, for individuals who need help, not necessarily on a permanent, but sometimes on a permanent, sometimes on a more, just for a few days and weeks. This part somehow is facing a terrible gap, because the persons who used to provide this kind of care, and in Greece we know very well that what in other countries is the welfare state that provides care for people of all ages. In Greece, this is provided by the informal welfare state, which is the family, basically. And in order to be honest, it's basically the women within the family. Now, of providing care for older individuals, for adult individuals, is not only a Greek specificity. 21% of US people are providing almost daily care work for adults, not children, because especially in everyday living activities. In Europe, according to Sherry, this percentage is slightly higher. It's 23%, 23%, sorry. And in Greece, it's slightly higher. It's 24%. This involves everyday care. Now, imagine that this is a scenario now that sounds like a nightmare. We prepare dynamic and very well trained and very well educated and highly motivated women throughout the school system and the university system and the beginning of their career. And we either ask them to say goodbye to their career in order to take up the necessary work at home, or we tell them, okay, you have to work longer because I can't pay anymore the high pensions of the that I have already promised to everybody else, but you are also expected to care as well, because who's going to do it? And if you don't want to do it, and if you can't do it, it reflects on you. It's something that has to do with what kind of person you are. Now, I think that this is a conundrum that in order to see how easy it is to solve it, we have to look back at a good story, a happy story, a happy ending story. The happy ending story happened in Greece in the 90s and early noughts, when, without asking them, a number of immigrants came to Greece, lots of them women from the neighboring Balkan countries, who got involved in care provision for pay, but not at a cost that was impossible for average people to, to afford it. And this allowed women with degrees and ambitions, who were stuck at home with their children and their grandmothers and other relatives, who managed to somehow shift part of the burden to these women and then get a job. And this was a double, how shall I say, bonus, because on the one hand, highly trained and educated people had the chance to go and work. Not very highly trained people who had the ambition to make a career of them were able to go out. And also other women developed the skills to become professionals. This, needless to say, boosted the growth rate of Greece, and it allowed Greece to be able to join the monetary union, the European Monetary Union. And we should be very grateful. We should actually put up αγάλματα for these women.
Statues, yes.
Statues for these women too. I mean, the unknown carer from Albania or the vicinity. Now we have the exact opposite scenario, the nightmare scenario. Women, the needs for care are going to increase because we're going to live longer, and this is a very, very good piece of news, and we should celebrate it rather than... On the other hand, women have to stay longer at work because the idea of, pushing them out at 50 is both degrading and economically, financially non-viable. So we will end up facing a huge care gap that not only will reflect on the finances and the whatever of the family and of the state and everybody else, but also it will cause a deep personal trauma, because it's our relatives that are going to miss, and later on ourselves. Let's face it, that we're going to go without the care that we need and we deserve.
On the issue of care, let's delve deeper. Let's ask Mr. Neos, provide us with a bit more context. Who provides elderly care currently? We can all understand that the needs are going to rise exponentially in the next few decades.
Yeah.
And how are we going to solve the problem of these needs being met without having 1 million migrants coming into Greece, realistically?
I don't think that's possible. Let me just say, long ago I did some research on, big national research on family care that was being done all over Europe, and at that time 80% of care was done by women. But obviously the demographies keep changing, and one could see that more men were going to have to be carers. And I would point that out to any men sitting in the room. They probably know it, some of them already. They're not going to be exempt from this, which is by the way, that's a good message, because too many are in politics and they better think about it because it's going to affect them. However, they tend to be better off. Better off means that they tend to be able to buy in care. And up until now, migrant women, but not only migrant women. I have to say, we often talk about educated women here disproportionately, but a lot of women are not particularly educated. Greek labour market has a bad record in training people, and training people after the age of 45 is extremely poor and has been for a long time, which means that the luck class comes into it, or education, what do you want to call it, doesn't matter. But that there are very big differences in the opportunities for women depending on their background and what kind of money and jobs they can actually get. So the risk is, I suppose, that some of the poorest will get some of the poorest absent care. At the moment, if you talk about services like help at home, voήθειες στο σπίτι, kefik, all of those, they cover a tiny proportion, and only the poorest of the poor who have nobody to care. So the absence of services is a huge lack in Greece, and we are behind. I wanted to say something about there are very specific things that have happened in Greece, like a lack of investment in women's, of all levels of education. But I think also it's not just that, it's a lack of services. We've known about that, the cutbacks in health services, and most of all, a bad idea about health, that actually health is something you go to the hospital for. And people still, when they talk about health, talk about how many hospitals we have. Where is the preventive health? How many of you take regular exercise? How many of you watch your diet? You are the privileged sitting here, I have to say. I mean, educationally. And I bet not everybody's doing their best to keep healthy. And if there's one piece of advice I could give absolutely everybody, keep healthy, because you will suffer from a lack of carers. I mean, I do not have a solution. Yes, migrants will temporarily be a solution for a bit of the time, as long as but they cost money. And you have to have that kind of money to pay out 800, 900, 1,000 euros a month. Lots of people have no savings, and certainly their pensions won't cover it. Families can't cover it, they're smaller. So I can't really say that there's a magic solution. Plus the fact that all of Europe is looking to do the same. We're not unique. I wanted to say this, that the Europe finally is getting round to talking about a care strategy. October 22, they actually decided they better do something about care and long-term care. And that will actually affect the Greek government, because it's saying carers have to be trained. Carers have to have qualification. And I would say we've tried a little bit as an NGO, with another NGO, to promote this by putting a care platform up. It's called Care Platform, so it's easy to remember, .gr, and it's visual. Why? Because a lot of people are not particularly literate. You assume literacy. I don't. I actually recognise a lot of people find literacy hard going, from school, from their backgrounds, plus all those who are migrants. Of the carers, I talked to a woman who's got a care organisation, one of the biggest, I think it's called Grandmama, and she said she has 8,000 carers on her book, which is good. It's like an Airbnb kind of system. You know, you can see who it is, you can choose, and you each mark each other, so a bad family doesn't get another person, which is great. I mean, that is a mutual... It's a sort of way of social control, which I think is quite valuable. And anyway, I think that's enough for the time being.
Yeah, I think we've covered the issue of care.
Sorry,
we haven't covered...
I know why I mentioned it, that half the carers on the books were Greeks.
Oh, wow.
Greek women, and many of whom had done care work before.
Informally.
Informal, and they moved into the formal. Okay. And that's one of the hopes you have, that somebody could go from informal goes to informal. And
because they get skills by doing it.
They have skills, and they get more skills on the care platform, and we are now discussing how to get them to qualify.
Having talked about skills and cultural issues, Ms. Simpson, working longer has been considered anathema in Greece for a very long time. Should we really incentivize people to continue working? And what's the role of the state? What should states do on that front?
Perfect. Well, I want to say apologies I can't be with you all in person in Greece, but thank you for connecting me in. And I just want to check, Theodoros, that you can hear me okay in the room and on the panel. Perfect. So in terms of the state intervention, so before I do that, a bit of context. We are a commercial organisation, and we are solving for ageing populations around the world. The good news is I've heard from listening into some of these panel sessions today that Greece are presenting a lot of problems and issues relating to an ageing population. But the good news I can share with you is that there are definitely very strong solutions around workforce participation. And in fact, in our work with some of the world's largest organisations, from Amazon to Diageo to AXA and Veolia, we are seeing that we can typically add 10 years onto someone's working career, and we can encourage and enable people to work longer and save more for their longer lives. But if I come back to your first question, Theodoros, around the state interventions, there are three key areas that we see that the state should be and can successfully intervene. The first is around flexible working policies. So in the UK, new legislation came into force last week on the 6th of April, which entitles all workers to request flexible work from day one of employment. And secondly, entitles all workers to 1 week of unpaid care leave per annum. And this is critically important for the workforce, particularly the older workforce, as has been called out by your other panelists, who are increasingly sandwiched between caring for elderly parents and also younger grandchildren. The second area of support is around tax and incentives. So Singapore recently announced the Modular package. This again is a state incentivized package for individuals to continue to work longer and save more. And so from the age of 50, the state will pay you a bonus of $1,000 per annum if you continue to remain in paid for engaged work. Similar around tax incentives in, say, the UK, where we are headquartered, we have seen that the government has reduced any tax penalties for people that are currently in retirement and taking a pension to unretire and return back into the workforce, which is a huge trend in the UK and in the US. And then thirdly, incentivizing employers. So reducing any employer tax contributions or state levies for hiring workers over the age of 55. And then the third area for state intervention is around the really important reskill agenda. So we see governments around the world that are intervening to provide either incentives to individuals to take retraining back into university or into occupational schemes, or incentivize employers. So there is an apprenticeship levy and a returnership scheme in the UK that pays employers to reskill people of all ages. But very specifically, current focus in the last 18 months has been around how do we reskill and upskill over 50s. And we're seeing that both the state and those very large employers are coming together to create cohesive schemes that put thousands of people back into the employment market with new skills such as AI or green technology and energy.
So you mentioned reskilling. Very quickly, throughout this conference, you hear representatives from corporations complaining constantly that they cannot find skilled workers. What can they do to either keep their 55 plus workers, reskill them, or attract new workers that are older than the young people they're going for usually? As quickly as you can, because we don't have enough time.
Of course. So if we look at the word age, AGE, the three things for employers to keep in mind is how are you attracting? So A is around attracting over 50s into every level of your organisation. So what's your data that shows you how you're doing that en masse at every level? What is your evidence that shows you that you are successfully unretiring and taking people from different skills background into your attraction pool? The G stands for grow. So how are you developing your workforce and enabling both your existing team members to remove any bias that they will undoubtedly have around age and people's ability to reskill or take a pay cut or change industry, but invest in those reskill programs. And we have so many examples of over 75 global corporates who are doing amazing work. But a very quick example would be Canada Life, who have a big presence on the Isle of Man, which is the second oldest population in the world, where they had a critical skill shortage around claims and life insurance specialists. And we intervened, and we have seen people retraining from being taxi drivers and care workers into financial services incredibly successfully in their 50s and 60s. And then the final letter is E, so that E of age, and that stands for engage. So you have to engage your current over 50s workforce. You have to support them to have a glide path into retirement that extends out 10 years longer than they were expecting. And that means you're creating more flexible ways of working, more career paths that go sideways and backwards in terms of pay and seniority. And importantly, focus on progression rather than promotion. And when you engage with that population, you will see that they are encouraged and enabled then to continue to work for longer, therefore not removing themselves from the employment market too early.
That's very clear and to the point. So in the last 2 minutes of our panel, Ms. Timadama, care and participation of older people in the workforce, how do we solve it? What are you going to do?
So thank you. So I will focus in 3 basic targets that we have in the Minister, and I'd like to be clear. The first of all is that we have the program of nannies. We have people that can that support children from 2 months to 2 years old. So we need nannies for elderly. This is something that we need to think very, very careful, because we need people, not only support in people that they cannot be part of the community, but to have this between generation solidarity. We have in our mind that there is in European level a very good, a very inspiring from my side and from our minister program about young people go to the elderly and just reading a book with them, just have a discussion with them, try to work between them, and this is really valuable for these people that they're isolated. The second one is the pension gap, and because we have more than 30% pension gap, men and women, in our national plan for 2025 to 2030, we have already prepared a specific program for women 55 plus to have the motivation to come back to the labor market. And this is not only the tax motivation, but also to have the support programs of training them and put them again in the everyday working technology and not only technology fields. The other very crucial issue for us is how we are going to have this work balance issue for the families. And this is something for democracy that our Secretary General, Ms. Stefo, has already mentioned. But we need to work in the balance of work and life of the family, not only have in our minds grandpa and grandma just supporting for free the young generation, but try to have a motivation for them to be part of this new procedure. And of course, I strongly believe, and I'd like to highlight, that we have the community of LGBTQI people. And we never think, because we discuss about and we talk about the inclusivity, how these people after 50, 60, 70 live, what they're doing, what about their talents. So we have prepared a specific project about this, and we think that this is really important to have these people, their talent, their approach, to be part of our community and part of our insurance policy, not only support them, but also support all of our people around, and we need these people to be part of our community, not only in a specific sector of working, sorry to say that, you know better than me what I'm talking about, but to have these people to live a quality life and be part of us. And last, and I finalize with this, yes, I think that I will take this from the previous speaker, that the path for inclusivity has to do a lot with the governance. My friend Adigoni knows. We need to be part of this discussion, all of us, all the stakeholders, and the private sector, because sometimes we think we don't need the private sector, we just need, you know, the ministers and the, no, we need the local, we need the regional level, we need the NGOs, we need the private sector, be part of the decisions and of the implementation of this issue. And this is something we are going to invest a lot. Thank you.
Thank you all so much, all my panelists, wonderful discussion, and thank you all for watching us. I would like to ask Ms. Penelope Theodorikakou for the next one. Thank you.